Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're bringing you another battle report, this time from the bridge of Tier VIII Premium Japanese destroyer, Asashio. That's right, Asashio, the ship that was once prophesied to end battleship play as we know it. Here we are, 2 years later, and I don't know about you guys, I still see plenty of battleships, so I got nothing. But I will say that I really enjoy playing this ship. And the reason I'm kind of giving you this replay today, we were having a conversation on my stream several days ago. A couple of viewers were asking questions about this ship, talking about some of their challenges and difficulties in it. And I will say, I understood some of the frustration, right? Like, Asashio is a bit of a different play style, a little bit, than some of the other Japanese destroyers. And so, I tried to take this ship out on stream, and of course, I couldn't get a good game to save my life. And then I picked her up randomly on my own time during the week, and of course, managed this game. Now, this game may not turn out the way you expect, so stay frosty and we'll talk through some places where I could have done things better that might have made more of an impact. Spawning here on the south side of north, I'm initially moving up very cautiously. I'm sticking close to this kid for A, protection, because it's a carrier game. That's right, the enemy Shokaku is an extreme threat to me if he decides he wants to bother me. And so I'm intentionally sticking close to this kid, but then he decides he's going to the 9 line. Well, look, there's nothing for me on the 9 line, okay? As an Asashio, my job is to harass battleships. My torpedoes will only impact battleships and aircraft carriers. And the odds of me getting a torpedo launch on a carrier this early in a game, pretty slim. So, I need to be out here looking for battleships. I'm not likely to find battleships on the 9 line. Alright, well, it's random. You never know what you're going to find on the 9 line and north on a random. But here I am working the bottom end of C and initially picking up a couple of battleships. Now, you see me here dumping out my first salvo of deep water torpedoes. One of the things that I want to talk about with Asashio is the strategy of how you go about playing this ship. For starters, she has really good detection, 5.4 kilometers. That's not best in tier, but it's pretty damn close to it. But more about what I really want to say is mostly about the torpedoes. Okay, you're going to see here I put my 2 salvos out, I pop my reload booster, I put 2 more salvos into the water. And I split these salvos. I've got 2 different battleships to be shooting at. Each battleship gets a rack, and they're spaced about 20-ish seconds or so apart. This is intentional. Almost more than any destroyer in her tier, and certainly in some of these matchmaking spreads, Asashio can land floods like nobody's business. These deep water torpedoes have got a massive flood chance. And even if you land these on the belt of something like a Yamato, you're probably still going to bag a flood. So I'm going to land one here on the stern of the Kremlin. He will take a flood, which he will, of course, repair. And then I am going to land one on the Odin. That's an engine cap. I'll knock out his engine. He will absolutely have to repair that as well. And so now you see the goal, right? The second salvo is going in on these guys now. And so now the second salvo is the one that I'm really looking for the impact here, okay? Kremlin, for his many sins, is going to eat 2 of these, one amidships and one in the bow. And now now having taken all of this damage, he's now sitting on double floods with no repair, for a little bit anyway, because Kremlin. Unfortunately, I missed the Odin with the second salvo. But still, here we are 4 minutes into the game. I'm at 80,000 damage and ticking up 2 floods on that Kremlin. And he is backing off. He wants no part of this cap circle. I have driven him away. So, some of what you're seeing, some of what I'm trying to demonstrate with Asashio here, is that Asashio, a battleship is an area projection piece on a board like this, right? When you bring a battleship in with your range, your big shells, you are able to project power, project force, and impact on a large section of the board. Asashio does the same thing, but she does it from stealth by pushing those battleships away, giving them a reason to be somewhere else. Now, I'm also doing something a little unusual here. I'm actually using Asashio's guns. You'll hear me talk about this all the time with Japanese destroyers. Japanese destroyer guns are really good, but a lot of players don't use them. Don't use them at all, which is a huge tragedy. Now, it's probably a bit of a misnomer here for me to be using them quite this early, but here I am doing it anyway, and that's okay. We'll survive it, right? He does, the Benson does smoke up. He backs off the cap completely. Myself and the kid push him away, and I decide he's pretty low. You saw him there. He was down about a third or a quarter of his HP. I want to push up. I'm going to push up and not only try to run this guy down, I want to be able to continue to harass this Odin and this Kremlin with my torpedoes. 5 minutes gone. I already have 100,000 damage. The Kremlin did manage to finally put out that double flood I stuck him with. Now, the team has basically surrendered the entire left half of the board. Now, that's not really a bad play. You look at all the ships the enemy has over there at the A cap, the odds of us getting anything out of that cap are very slim. The Holland is going to cap B basically by himself, despite the enemy carrier. That's good, and honestly, it fits what a Holland can do. A Holland can basically thumb his nose at the carrier and do whatever he wants. Me and the kid over here with the rest of the team have to kind of band together a little bit. The Benson's smoke, interestingly enough, did more than just conceal the Benson. It prevented us from seeing quite a bit of things over here. So he blew this smoke to save his own skin, but it worked out because it kept shots from landing on this Odin and this Baltimore and this Kremlin for a while as well. You see there, the Benson on about a third of his HP. I want to continue to push him and try to get him off the board, as I'm going to have torpedo salvo shots for this Odin right about here. Now, I'm doing something also a little risky. You see, the Odin is continuing to turn. I don't exactly know where his turn's going to go. And so I'm launching those torpedoes. I don't really know what I'm going to get out of them, right? And I'm also going to do something else here that I wouldn't normally do, and that is I'm going to get a little bit aggressive with my guns on this Benson. The problem is I'm not leading these salvos very well. The good news for me in response is that neither is the Benson. And I'm able to play some little games with my throttle here to throw off most of the return fire that I'm going to take from the Benson and the enemy Baltimore. I do finally start to land a few shells here. The friendly kid behind me is also making an effort to get this Benson off the board. I take a moment here to look around for a torpedo salvo, but no, nothing doing. As me and this kid are going to continue to play on this Benson. This Benson has decided, screw it, he's going to continue to fire. There's one of his torpedo salvos. Not surprised to see that. I've only got the bow guns right here, but Japanese dispersion can be pretty good. And sure enough, it only needs one shell for us to pick that up. I immediately smoke. The goal here is to drop right off the Baltimore's detection and either force him to burn his radar, which, by the way, he's out of range of. This doesn't help him at all. Or just, you know, salvage my, preserve my HP as best I can. 8 minutes gone. We have a narrow lead. We're tied on ships. We have a small cap lead here, and the team is surprisingly doing fairly well. They've given a bunch of ground at A, which they pretty much had to do, as a lot of those guys over at A have now rotated back towards the middle of the board. There's the other torpedo salvo from the kid, but we are good. I move up aggressively, intentionally. I wanted to make sure that when that second torpedo rack came available, I had a line on the Kremlin, and I did, and so into the water they go. When you play Asashio, one of the things, I mean, you bring this ship for the torpedoes. Every moment you are not firing torpedoes, your torpedoes are sitting in their tubes not firing, is kind of a waste. You have to constantly be looking for angles, places you can put torpedoes downrange that enemy ships will blunder into them, or something similar. So you see there, I've got a salvo on the Kremlin, I got a salvo on the Odin, I just put a salvo in the water on the Conqueror, and I just threw another salvo into the water, just in that general direction, because there's an Odin and a Conqueror over there, and you never know what they might blunder into. The kid and I have done a really good job of bracketing this Kremlin. He's going to take 2 more of mine, plus one of the kids. He's going to go down to 325 HP before he repairs and starts popping his heel. Still tied on ships. Our lead continuing to build. This looks like a really good game so far as I cross the 130,000 damage mark. Now, what's going to happen over the next few minutes is you're going to see me make some bad positional choices, and I want to talk about them as we go through here. If you see, the kid and I are kind of hung out to dry here on the north side of the sea cap. The team has turned around, and thankfully nobody over here has any radar, but we're very, very hemmed in terms of where we can go. And the extreme threat to us is that Smolensk prowling off to the north on the B line. He's not anywhere in range of detection yet, but if you were to push south, as you're seeing him start to do, that is a problem. One of those Hail Mary torps did manage to pop the Conqueror over there as well. So I have two immediate problems that I have to deal with. One is I have to run from this Smolensk. I cannot get caught out by this dude. And the second one is this damned Kremlin on the 9 line is still alive. Still alive after all the time we've put into trying to kill him. So I'm going to move over to the 9 line, knowing where the Kremlin is approximately. He's obviously running south down the 9 line. I'm going to try and put torpedoes into his way. See there, at 5.7, he still can't spot me. That's how stealthy this ship is. Unfortunately, I have absolutely blown this torpedo salvo. In my haste to get these torpedoes into the water, I have not led them properly. That first one was fine. What I should have done was waited about 10-12 seconds and gotten a better angle so I could fire those torpedoes from maybe over here, a little deeper into that channel in towards the sea cap, because that's where that Kremlin is going. And unfortunately for me, both of my torpedo salvos are going to be behind him. So that salvo is for naught. And remember, my torpedoes cannot harm the Smolensk that is over here off my starboard side. I have to just keep running from that guy. Now, luckily for me, the kid has my back, and that Kremlin will go off the board here in a moment. But it's going to leave us with a nice little lead. We'll tick up over 800 points when that happens. But now things will slowly start to devolve as this is all going to eventually fall apart for us. Right now we have a 400-point lead, or we're about to have a 400-point lead. Remember that in a little while. This Smolensk is basically getting free reign to do whatever he wants. Our battleship position is so questionable, and no one will shoot at this Smolensk. He's basically going to get to run in and just cap sea for free. He's trading fire with the Conqueror, but the Conqueror is firing HE at him. See, I've got my guns picked up. Right there, I should have taken a shot. I would have dropped immediately behind the island. Smolensk would have had no shot. And now, as he comes around the island from this side, and I've got another island in between us, I do finally take a shot right here, and I get probably about almost 3K out of it. It's a nice little salvo. 2K. Because Japanese HE will still hit light cruisers plenty hard. Enemy does make up a little ground and ship kills there as we grab one back as well. 7.5 minutes to play. We still have a nice little solid lead, but they're going to cap B. We pretty much can't stop it here. Our friendly Implacable has chosen probably the worst hull position he could have for that ship. He is so far out of the action, our carrier simply cannot impact the game in a meaningful fashion. Whereas if you look where the Shokaku is, he's right up next to that B cap behind the island. He's in a great position to have a big impact. They do finally get the Conqueror off the board, as the friendly kid has chosen, not paying attention to the minimap, apparently doesn't realize there's a Smolensk right there coming around the corner to absolutely annihilate him. And of course, he's going to try and smoke, which unfortunately Smolensk is going to have hydro, so that's going to do him absolutely nothing. So while the Smolensk is distracted, I take the opportunity to use my guns and beat him up a little bit. He's got heals, right? So there's only so much I can do here. He's going to start shaving off my HP a few thousand at a time. Now, initially my thinking is, alright, I'm going to sit in this smoke for a minute, but I pretty much can't do that because he'll just hydro me and push me out of the way. The other problem I'm running into is that Yoshino you see over on the 6th line is actually spotting me as I run south. I need the Yoshino to die. Blessedly, he does right there, and that gives me a little bit of leeway for the moment. Ugh, this battle is devolving very, very quickly. Our ship lead has now turned into a deficit. We've surrendered the B cap, and unless our carrier gets into the game, we're going to surrender the C cap very quickly, because who's left? It's me, the Stalingrad, and the carrier. The Stalingrad has a Conqueror in his face, and he's down on about 4,000 HP. This is going to go badly very quickly. Now, I've had a good game, right? I mean, I've had a great game. I'm at 160,000 damage. Game's not over yet. I've still got battleships I can shoot at, but my problem is I want the win, right? I play for the win. That's why I'm here. I might have should have taken a shot here at the Smolensk just to pick up a little more resets, and then I could have cut behind this island. I probably should have taken a shot at the Smolensk, maybe right about here or so. But the trick is, by not doing that, I mean, it's a toss-up, right? I didn't get the reset, but by not revealing my position, the Shokaku planes don't know where I am, and this Conqueror doesn't know where I am. They don't know if I've gone to the southwest or the southeast. Here's where my panic and my realization that we're going to lose this game starts to cause me to make some bad decisions. I do something I don't normally do. I dump both torpedo salvos very quickly on the Conqueror. Of course, without even knowing where I am, he changes his rudder. All he was doing was running alongside the edge of the island to get around the sinking hulk of the Stalingrad, and so now I've wasted those salvos. They're completely gone. So I have to burn my last torpedo reload to get anything on this guy. I'm trying to gauge his reaction. He's continuing to turn to his port, and you can see that the dive bomb's coming in, so I try to lead him a little bit. And right about then is when I discover there is the Shokaku. Ugh! What a great torpedo salvo that would have been if I hadn't blown those first two salvos on the Conqueror, and he turned out of them, and they went nowhere. Right now is when I want that torpedo reload, because I'd throw one at the Odin in the cap circle, and I'd stage one for the Shokaku, thinking maybe I could pick up a couple as he came around the island. Because remember, these guys don't know where I am. They might suspect, but they don't know. I am going to put two into the Conqueror, and he's very, very weak on torpedo protection. Again, down to 600 HP, but he repairs, and life goes on. They are going to bag B. They've already bagged C. We're down. It's 4v2, and the Implacable is honestly largely toothless at this point of the match. The Conqueror has a ton of AA. Smolensk has a ton of AA. The best thing on the board for him to attack is the enemy Odin, but he has to get through the Shokaku's combat air patrol to do it, because he and the Odin are sitting on top of each other. So the Implacable is largely out of this fight. Now, he can do some damage to that Conqueror. Conqueror is squishy, but it probably won't be enough to kill him. Shokaku does finally stumble across me with my big 10 DPS. I stop, completely stop, which basically means he cannot get the attack run off. Unfortunately, he puts up the fighter, and my A is so anemic, I can't even get rid of the fighter. That's going to keep me lit for plenty of time for him to come back and start making runs on me. But this is where we're going to start to see some of the benefits of the changes to the targeting reticles of carriers. Ordinarily, that salvo would have wiped me off the board because of the way Shokaku's reticle worked. But that one does not, because of the new elongated, the wider targeting reticle that carrier rocket planes have to deal with. That means he does land a few rockets on me, but the salvo is not catastrophic because I turned and gave him a much narrower profile to work with. He's going to try the same thing here with more or less the same result, right? He gets a few rockets, but it's not catastrophic. Time ticking away. They own all the caps. This is just mop up for them at this point. I'm basically just trying to thumb my nose at the carrier by smoking up here. I sneak another torpedo into the Odin in the cap circle, but they've already capped B by that point. And he blows a rocket salvo, gets nothing, and I'm just stalling for time here at this point, waiting for my torpedoes to try and come back up. You see the enemy Conqueror there, down on 5,000 HP, so that rocket strike that the Implacable took on him earlier did do some work. I mean, if I could get close to him or even land another torpedo, if there was more time on the clock, I might be able to kill that Conqueror, get him off the board. But unfortunately, there's only 20 seconds left in this game, and as soon as they kill the Implacable, the game will be over, and that is what's going to happen here in just a few moments. So, again, I mean, a 200,000 damage game in Asashio, 1.1 million credits. Like, I'm very happy with my result in this game, but unfortunately, it doesn't translate into a win for the team. And that's something that you're going to find sometimes with Asashio, right? Asashio is she's kind of an area control piece, the same way a battleship is. She's just much harder to detect. Her torpedoes, her influence is that she pushes other board control pieces, those enemy battleships, she pushes them away from wherever she is. Once an enemy battleship figures out there's an Asashio in front of him, he wants to be somewhere else. Trust me, okay? So, without a radar cruiser to ferret me out, the enemy Baltimore that started near the sea cap early in the game got, wrecked and driven off by my own battleships. We were able to do great work in and around C early. But I did not rotate to B quick enough. I realized watching this replay that was my mistake. By pushing north through the north side of C, I failed. What I needed to do was cap C, mission accomplished, we pushed the battleships off, then I needed to go to B and play around over there, because eventually that's where those battleships that I would have had a chance to do something with, the Conqueror, the Odin, pushed into B late in the game, that's where my torpedoes were needed, and I just missed that by reading the map the way I did. So, hope you guys enjoyed that one. I won't say it's a primer in how to play Asashio, but there are some teaching moments in this game. Anyways, hope you enjoyed that. Be safe out there, wash your hands, and I'll catch you next time.